Okay, I'm going to start recording. So since you listen to my podcast all the time,
every day,
I have a tradition. Whoever is on the podcast has to do the intro.
That's the weirdest the thing to start with a podcast with. I don't even know what your podcast is called.
Oh, thanks. That's awesome. What, you really don't know? It's Couch on Fire.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you asshole.
Yeah, welcome to Couch on Fire. This is your host, Devin.
There you go.
Along with
his special guest, Rob.
Sure.
So how you doing, Devin? All right?
I'm doing fantastic, Rob. How are you doing?
All right, pretty good. We are outside, so if you hear birds chirping and kids screaming, because we're next to the pool,
yep,
they're probably drowning.
We look like crazy people sitting in the middle of a forest just talking to each other with a mic.
I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah.
That's great. Anyway, so I wanted to talk to you. I've been waiting to talk to you about this topic. I've been waiting to see if you would do a podcast with me. Because I know a lot of people that like Disney, but I think you're one of the ones that is more on the line of the obsession part of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I wanted to just have a podcast about Disney, about everything they own and how they're going to, the global domination that they have. And,
yeah, sure.
So I have a lovely list that I would like to stick to. Maybe. We'll see how it works out.
Hey, this is your show.
I don't know. I mean, you did the intro, so.
That's true. Maybe I should take the list and do it to you.
So if you remember, what was your very, very first Disney movie that you ever experienced?
Oh, man, I should have been given the list beforehand so I could prep. My first Disney movie, well, the first one that made an impact on me was kind of a Disney movie. It was a half and half, but right now it technically is Disney.
Oh, God.
So that's Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Okay.
So that was, we just got attacked by a butterfly. But that still to this day is probably my top 2 or 3 movies, as weird as that is. But that's that
of all time.
Of all time.
All time. Okay.
I love that.
Not even Disney. Doesn't matter. Just the top.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Or possibly Three Caballeros, which most people have never even heard of. Which I love to the point that I have a ridiculous, stupid chest tattoo of.
Well, I like it. It's a good tattoo.
I mean, yeah, which is a movie from the 1930s. It's one of their first movies, and for some reason, I saw that on VHS as a kid, and again, still love that movie. But yeah, those are probably my first 2 big Disney movies.
Good. I would say a good solid 2.
Actually, I disagree. I think it's a very strange 2.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not the typical, like, oh my God, I fell in love with, like, what's my favorite Disney movie?
What's your favorite
You
Disney
should know
movie?
This one.
Should I? Now I'm going to feel real dumb for...
All right, well, while you're thinking about that...
I would have thought Lion King.
Well, see, Lion King was the first Disney movie that I ever really experienced.
Yeah.
I think I remember when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters. That was the first one that I really experienced. But the one that I adopted as my favorite is Hercules.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
you're right. I should have known Hercules.
I love Greek mythology, and I love that whole thing, and that was good to me. But Lion King was the first. The one that impacted me the most, the one that to this day I just absolutely adore, and I never really watch it that often, is probably Aladdin.
Aladdin's a good one. We came in at a nice resurgence of Disney. So we got there right as they started to bring it back. While in the 80s it was kind of dying down and had not so great movies, but the 90s came roaring back. So
why like you, I like ones that are not so famous, like the Rescuers Down Under.
Oh, I love Rescuers Down Under.
I mean, you got the Aristocats. Well, I guess the Aristocats kind of famous, but
those are both in that time. There was a little quieter before it had the big boom again. Because I think those are both 80s Disney movies.
Oh yeah.
So.
But just early 90s, getting exposed to that. All Dogs Go to Heaven. I mean, these are some classics.
Not Disney though.
It's not Disney.
No,
Wait.
No.
Well, not. Probably by now it's Disney.
Yeah, that I couldn't tell you. But no, that's I can't remember.
Warner Brothers?
I can't remember what All Dogs Are, but it's definitely not Disney.
Damn.
Like that one, and like it might be is it a Don Bluth movie? Maybe. Them and like Five Goes West and Secret of Nymph and like all that stuff. Those other
Oh,
good
wow.
90s cartoons. Yeah, none of those are actually Disney. Yeah. So, good movies.
Yeah,
Good movies. Yeah.
So did you watch Disney when growing up? Did you like?
Oh yeah. I had.
See, wasn't it a paid thing? I'm pretty sure Disney Channel you had to pay a little bit extra on the cable.
I didn't have Disney Channel, so
Okay.
I didn't grow up with like the Disney shows.
Yes,
It was all
okay.
VHSs that my grandma typically bought,
Mhm.
and we would watch them every weekend because that's when we would go stay with my grandma. So
Oh no, see that's because I didn't have that either. I had the typical Nickelodeon, and I had obviously Cartoon Network came out too, but I just remember the VHSs, and I remember all the toys I got from like Burger King, McDonald's. I remember I used to have I think his name was Flounder from
Little Mermaid.
yeah, Little Mermaid. He used to swim. I had all those toys I used to play in the bathtub with, and I absolutely love, and I wish I had to this day because they're probably worth millions.
My pop used to get every single toy from McDonald's, and those were our Christmas gifts. So kind of lame in retrospect, but we loved them when we were growing up. So
Oh, it doesn't matter.
he would get the whole set, yeah. And so we would all have a set of super cheap, made in China junk that we loved, and we played in the tub also. So.
And it's crazy how you say that, like, so there was, a lot of people don't know, there was a point where Disney was pretty much falling face down on their, they were just falling. They were just, they were not good. The parks weren't doing well. It just wasn't really happening for it. So what do you think changed them, that made them go towards the right path? Or I wouldn't say this is the right path, but made them go towards more money.
They're definitely on the right path now. I mean, there's nothing to stop that juggernaut. It was like we said, it was kind of the 90s. I mean, it was just when you make good movies, people come watch, and 90s came out with just banger after banger. I mean, technically Little Mermaid I think was 89, but that was kind of
The start of it.
It was that. I mean, that Lion King, Aladdin, and there's one more big one that I'm missing, but
Is it Beauty and the Beast, or is that?
yeah, Beauty and the Beast was 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was those were kind of the ones that, I mean,
Like that.
they were big hits, so people came back. I mean, that's.
Do you think it's because I think those actually had like not real actors. Obviously, there's always actors that do the voices, but they were actually known actors that were in those shows.
They started doing that. They still had some pretty big voice actors, but yeah, I mean
Because Aladdin itself had like.
Right, Robin Williams was obviously the kind of the
Who's
big.
Jafar? It was I remember the parrot. It was
that
Godfrey or
Gilbert Godfrey. Yeah, to this day that was really the first time they stopped. I mean, they still used voice actors, but they really moved away from that and went more towards big name actors. And yeah, I'm sure that definitely helped. I mean, Hercules had Danny DeVito. And that dad from the OC was Hercules. I don't remember what that guy's name is, but so yeah, no, they still do that to this day. So I mean, that might have had something to do. I think good movies are just going to bring you.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what, I'm going to go watch a movie that I hear is good, whether whoever made it. Yeah. So.
And it's I think what also helped them, I think in the late '90s, didn't they acquire Pixar?
No, but when was Pixar? But they worked. They always worked with Pixar.
Okay.
So.
Because I think because of the Toy Story era, that happened in like the late '90s, right? Early 2000s.
I think Toy Story.
The wonderful world of the internet.
I want to say Toy Story was '98. I think. Okay. So. Oh no, I'm before it. 95 is
95.
So, yeah,
okay, so
yeah. Pixar was still by itself, but like they haven't. They actually didn't. I don't even think they purchased Pixar for longer than you'd think. But because every movie was basically made together. Yeah. People don't really think of them as two separate companies, but I'm sure that helped too. I mean, again, I mean, Toy Story is up there for one of their biggest movies, Pixar-wise. So if you associate Disney with it, then sure, they're gonna.
I mean, to this day, I associate Disney with Pixar. Anything that they put out, I just assume that DreamWorks and, like you said, it's kind of. It just seems that they all fit together.
There was a good. If you want to broaden it to 90s animation, I mean, because DreamWorks did kind of come along and they contributed. So yeah, I mean, it was a good time for for animation period. So all that contributed.
Well, now, I mean, now they have Marvel.
All that, yeah.
And that's
yeah. There's really no possible way that Disney falls down at this point. I mean, it's just too big to fail.
So that was a good move by them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they purchased it for.
Well, Marvel was collapsing.
Yeah, I mean, well, they had to sell it off. Was it 4 billion that they paid for it? Was it even that? I think. And now they make $2 billion
a movie.
I mean, they made $2 billion for Avengers just recently, and they typically make $1 billion for their other big ones.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've long since made that money back. So yeah, no, they obviously that kept their success going.
It's crazy. I still meet people that don't know that Disney owns Marvel.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising.
And then, it's mostly older folks, like my father-in-law. God rest his soul, but he just doesn't know.
They've done a pretty good job of keeping everything semi-separate. They don't do weird mixes too often, unless you count Wreck-It Ralph or the new one coming out. But for the most part, it was $4.24 billion. So
jeez.
I'm pretty sure they've made that back by now.
Oh yeah.
And that was in 2009. So yeah, that's almost 10 years ago. So yeah, they've
2009. Is that when? I thought Iron Man came out in 2008.
It was right around there. It was
okay.
It was all around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you the exact time. But that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 08. So
yep. I definitely feel like that was a great move by them. I don't know how I feel about the Star Wars move. Obviously, financial-wise, it's great by them.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. But as a fan-wise, it's still, I don't know if they know what they're doing yet with Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Star Wars apologist, but yeah, I was not blown away by the newest one. It's hard to say because they may just have to have the right person in charge and let them do things like they do with Kevin Feige, right?
Yeah.
So maybe
they have to figure that one out.
Yeah, maybe Kennedy isn't the right person to be taking it over, or they might just have their hands too involved in it. I mean, sometimes they just got to back away. But even with the backlash, it wasn't awful. I mean, it still made a ton of movie, and fans.
Well, that's the thing. Like The Force Awakens, it was good. I feel like though. I feel like the reason why it made a lot more money is because people were yearning for a Star Wars movie. They just were like, I don't care what comes out, I'm going to go see it because it's a Star Wars movie. Yep. It's in that universe. I want to see what's going on. And there was flaws.
Sure.
But there's flaws in the originals.
Yep.
But there was flaws. But it definitely did good. And it seems promising that J.J. Abrams is coming back to do the third one out of this trilogy. This one.
Yeah, you needed the Force Awakens. You needed. I mean, it was.
Well, need to pull people back into the universe.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of have one that's not straying too far from the beaten path to get everyone back in line. So I get that. It's the second one. I mean, some people are mad because it's too different, but then people were mad that the prequels were too different. So I mean, it's hard to please Star Wars fans, myself included. So that they're always going to run into that.
I still think Episode 3 is the best one.
Well, you're a crazy person. So.
It's good. See, I just, the type of person I am, I like backstories, and that just, for this, culminated all this backstory for Darth Vader, and it just made me happy.
I don't...
not the whole movie, the politics side of it, meh, and then some of the animation, meh, but it's just more of like the last 45 minutes to an hour. It's my favorite part of the whole series.
It has, I'm not as much of a prequel hater as a lot of people are, but I definitely put it, I don't know. The best of the prequels, that's the best I can give it. So I'm still, the prequels are still below everything else that I've seen so far. But what are you gonna do?
I feel like they casted certain characters well in the prequels.
I think
like Liam Neeson as
great.
Yeah,
I like and
Ewan McGregor is amazing.
People still want Ewan McGregor to make an Obi-Wan movie. So no, it had pieces. I mean, it had some cool. Darth Maul obviously is super cool. I
wish they would have kept that going.
It had some interesting ways to go that were different. I mean, there was plenty of things that were right with it. It's just there was also plenty of things that were wrong with it. So, what are you gonna do? That was God, 10 years, more than 10 years ago.
Well, isn't like the anime series is doing really well.
Yeah,
And I've never watched it, unfortunately.
I never watched Rebels, but I watched a lot of the Clone Wars, and yeah, if the Clone Wars, if you watch the Clone Wars, you forgive the prequels a little more because they're able to really flesh out Anakin and not make him so whiny and really make him and Obi-Wan seem like they're legit brothers, and it's not out of nowhere. I mean, it's good stuff, and I think they're actually making more fairly soon too. So.
Well, I know. I was going to ask you, what do you think Disney's going to do in the future? But I know one of the things they're definitely doing is their own streaming service, and they already announced that all the cartoons and stuff are going to be on there. Well, pretty much. I mean, you have to everything besides like the Netflix, Daredevil, and things like that are going to be on this streaming service.
I wouldn't be surprised if once that contract's over, they bring that stuff over too. Because if you're going to stream, if you're gonna make your own streaming device that someone's gonna pay $10 a month, you better make sure you have enough so that you keep watching. Mm-hmm. So, and some of their biggest things are those shows that they're on Netflix. So,
I just, for my daughter's sake, I hope they put The Lion Guard, and I hope they put Mickey Mouse Clubhouse on that place.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure all those will be brought over too. Yeah.
Side note, I know. So I'm sitting next to the spider web. And I've been looking at it and how big it is. There's got to be a tarantula sitting right underneath me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's like some kind of, I don't even.
Yeah, I don't say anything, but yeah, keep watching it.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's crazy. So speaking of the future, the Fox deal.
Yeah.
You think this is good or bad? I mean, is it all uphill now? They can just buy whatever the fuck they want and just, or do you think they're gonna fall on their face with the Fox deal?
Part of it I dislike because you don't want monopolies anywhere. Because it naturally, just if you have no competition, you're not going to have to force yourself to put as good a product out.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it goes right into Marvel. And Marvel already has the good track record. So I mean, do I want to see X-Men just thrown in there?
My God.
Sure, of course I do.
I would love to see the Incredible Hulk throw Wolverine at somebody.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and all that is
all I want to see.
All that's going to be on the table, and people who were like, "Well, what are you going to do after Thanos?" Well, all of a sudden now you have, you can bring in the Silver Surfer, and you can
Galactus.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Exactly. You can bring in Galactus, and you can bring in. I'm not as big of a comic guy as I once was, but there's plenty of other guys that you can bring in. Magneto and Doctor Doom can be forces in movies.
Yeah.
Done right. So.
Well, I think going back and now, I think Fox did okay with X-Men. I honestly like the X-Men. I like the original ones. Now going back and watching them, it's like
a little cheesy.
But back then, that's what we had. That's all we really had. Yeah. Like we had the Spider-Man movies, but other than that, that's pretty much what we had. And then, I mean, I like what they did. And then even Days of Future Past, I think is one of the better ones of the Fox X-Men. Yeah,
they've learned. They've gotten better at what they've done, and they've moved along fairly well. They always kind of held back, whereas Marvel would be like, oh, hey, there's this giant tree, and there's this little talking raccoon, and here's these bright costumes, and people eat it up, whereas Fox has been slower to do it, and now they won't have to be. They can throw them in the bright yellow suits, and no one's going to bat an eye. But yeah, it's been fine. I mean, it's just going to be better to be able to be put together with all this stuff that's so established. So,
Marvel was probably like, listen, how much did your Spider-Man movies make? Well, we can triple that if you just let us have a little bit of rights for right now. And then they saw that, and then they got the taste for it. And then they're like, you know what, fuck it, let's just keep doing it. I mean, Logan did great.
Oh, yeah.
Deadpool did great. So they were heading in the right direction, but I definitely feel I'm happy with this because of us being fans. I'm sure, just to see everything in the universe. I still don't know how Deadpool will ever fit in this because he's raunchy and just very...
He'd be hard as far as ratings go to be able to keep him calm but keep the Deadpool character. So he'll probably exist more on his own, but you never know. I mean,
I just read something about Venom, about they're trying to make it PG-13 because it is a Disney. It's part of Disney now.
Not yet.
Well, not yet.
Yeah, it's.
But they were trying to because they want to incorporate him into the Spider-Man or Spider-Man into there. But they're not going to involve this neighborhood, friendly Spider-Man if he's over here eating people's fucking heads off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, comics are a weird spot compared to movies. I mean, movies, you have strict ratings, whereas comics, yeah, I believe they have some sort of rating, but at the same time, you can have a raunchiness, and then the next page you're doing some sort of heroes, like, so it's going to be tough for them to do stuff like Venom and stuff like Deadpool, but as long as they try to keep to the source, they'll just kind of have to split them up. But that's how it's always been. Really, we haven't had these guys until 3 years ago. So it's not like it's fair. It's not like it's an old thing. So, but
live action.
Yeah.
How do you feel about them? Do you think it's an easy way out, that they're not coming up with good ideas, that they have to take their old movies and make them live action? Or do you think, this is just them just milking what they already have?
Oh, it's definitely the milking. I mean, they I don't even remember what the first one they did. What was the first one? Is it Cinderella or Maleficent? One of those two were like the.
I want to say it was probably Cinderella. I think
it was Cinderella, and I mean, if you see that they keep making money, it's hard to blame them. But obviously, you're gonna say, well, that's not much, Especially the ones that are going beat for beat. I mean, Jungle Book. While I like Jungle Book, it pretty much followed right down the movie. I mean, Lion King's probably gonna do the same thing. So I mean, for me, I'm fine with it because I'm a a Disney apologist. So I'll go watch them all, and I'll probably love them all because I love the animated, aside for Dumbo. I want nothing to do with Dumbo.
Well, is it Tim Burton? So that's gonna be interesting.
I don't mind it being Tim Burton. It just
how do you do?
It's hard to judge those type of movies because some people want them to be beat for beat. Well, no, you're changing the original, and some people are like, well, I've already seen that movie. You got to change it up. So you're never going to be able to satisfy everybody.
Yeah. I'm not the hugest fan of the live action. Maybe it's because the movies that already came out. Like, I like Cinderella. The story's great. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. There's certain stories that Disney has told movies in the past that I'm not the biggest fan of. And it's like I'm not a huge fan of Bambi. I'm not a huge fan of Cinderella, Maleficent, that whole storyline. The Sword and the Stone was probably the only one back then that I really liked.
Yeah.
But Aladdin.
Yeah.
Pocahontas. These are movies that I would be excited for, and I know they're in works.
Oh, of course. Well,
they're pretty much already.
Well, Aladdin's already been cast, and they're already filming. I mean, it's got.
But Pocahontas is the one that I want to see.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think it's been official, but I mean, Mulan's already been greenlit. They already have a cast, so yeah. I mean, they're gonna keep doing this until people stop going to see it. I mean, it's hard to blame them, but
live action Lilo and Stitch.
That'd be weird, but I'm not ruling it out. I mean, it's. But, they're going to look at every single movie they've ever made and say, hey, can we do this as a live action and will it make money? The second answer is always going to be yes. So
I could see a live action Moana in 10 years.
And sadly, they're probably already considering it, even though that movie came out a year or two ago. I mean, again, who can blame them when people keep going to it? You always vote with your wallet. So
I definitely, now since I have a daughter and she loves Disney, I'm exposed to her a little bit more. I see more commercials, and I already knew that it was big, but you just don't know how big it is until you start seeing, there's a Disneyland in China, there's one in Paris, there's one in, and obviously there's Disney World, but it's there's cruises. You've gone to expos. Yeah. It's just one of those things where, I mean, where did they go now? What did they just...
I mean, I don't think they have to go anywhere. I mean, they just they're going to keep building Marvel. They're going to keep putting Star Wars movies once every year or two. I mean, they're going to keep putting out 2 Disney movies a year, and very few of them flop. I mean, there's been exceptions. I mean, John Carter not so recently.
Which sucks because I like that actor.
I like John Carter too, but there was a few that just flopped. Wrinkle in Time flopped hard. I mean,
did it really?
Yeah. Some of them are going to flop, but they have so many more that make way more than.
Oh, I know.
I mean, they're all have the chance to make $1 billion. So it's I mean, they're going to keep adding to their parks. Whatever new properties they get, they're just going to throw them right in there in the park. I mean, Star Wars Land is being built, or it's already built. I'm not even sure.
That's going to be the biggest thing for them right now.
I mean, They
took down the Tower of Terror. Now it's like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and they're probably going to keep doing that. I mean, they're gonna look at their rides that aren't as popular. Like I talked about Three Caballeros. There's a Three Caballero like little ride, and there's talks of them changing it to Coco, and I will be devastated, but I'll be one of like 6 people in the world that are devastated. So they're gonna upgrade their old one. They'll probably find a property that they can upgrade. The Tiki Room or whatever old ones they have.
What about the Haunted Mansion?
I mean, and maybe they don't. I mean, again, they'll probably look at the ones that don't sell out as well. Haunted Mansion has always been popular, so they probably won't touch that.
The Pirates of the Caribbean ride. These are
that they already have the Pirates movies. So,
yeah.
In fact, they've added Jack Sparrow to it, and they added certain movie elements to it. So yeah, I mean, the few things that they have crazy tech to keep track of every ride that gets ridden, so they know exactly which ones they can get rid of without people mining, and ones that they can't touch. I
don't know. I agree. I feel like when I went to Disney World with you, it was the first time going. So obviously I just hear stories about Jaws ride, this ride, E.T. ride, and things like that. And
that's Universal.
Oh, that is Universal. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother conversation. Jesus Christ. Well, see, just like the Pixar and Disney, you kind of think when you go to Disney World that Universal's part of it.
Well, it didn't help that we went like back to back.
Yeah, I know.
Basically, so they all kind of merged together. But
you think though, it's kind of like like if you go to Disney World, you got to go to Springfield.
Yeah.
You got to go. You got to do these things. So it's just it's just.
But to that point, they have gotten rid of rides at Disney that people were upset that they got rid of.
Did they get rid of the Bugs Life? And isn't it the Avatar thing now, or is that they still have that Bugs Life in the tree?
I can't remember. I think they still have parts of the Bugs Life, but again, that's new-ish. That's only. I mean, when did Bugs Life come out? 10 15, 20 years ago?
15, at least 15.
It was one of the earlier. I think it was the 3rd Pixar movie, so it was earlier. So it was probably right at the 2000s, but so it's new-ish. So they're just going to get rid of the ones that don't do. I'm sure they'll get rid of the Smith Family Robinson garbage. I mean, no offense to any Smith Family Robinson, who uses that? I mean, so they'll figure it out. I'm not really concerned about what they get rid of. You're always going to have people angry at something.
Well, no, you can't please everyone. There's too many people in the world that there's always a left and there's always a right.
And too many Disney fans.
Yes, and there's the hardcore ones like you were talking about that are just would be upset if things are changing, and then there's the ones that like, okay, well, I won here. I already rode the ride.
Yep.
Something new. Let's just continue this journey.
Yep.
And I like what they're doing. They're definitely. I like that they're expanding though.
Yeah.
I don't know the land around Disney. I don't know who owns the marsh and all that stuff.
Right.
But I'm glad that they're expanding, especially for Star Wars. That is, like, the movies might not be doing as great as they want them to do, but I feel like the theme park's going to do amazing with the Star Wars thing.
And even with the people saying that they didn't like the movie, I mean,
they still saw it.
Still made. It's still, I think it's still, even the second one, which had quote unquote lower ratings, I believe it's still top 10 movie making of all time, so it's not like people didn't go see it. So, I mean, Han Solo definitely didn't meet expectations, but, the core ones are always going to make money. I mean, until people like me die out, they're...
Well, what Marvel movie do you think is the bottom? Out of all of them, besides the original Incredible Hulk? Because that's just...
Do you mean which property will they get to where people finally stop going, or which one has been the worst so far?
I would say the worst so far.
Probably the Thor movies, the first and second. Probably my least favorites.
See, I would think the original Ant-Man. I don't think Ant-Man was a strong enough character. It was a good movie, but it just compared.
See, but Marvel also does a good job about knowing which movies are going to be huge hits. So they still made a ridiculous profit from Ant-Man because they only threw $40 million into it, as opposed to obviously Infinity War. They threw what, 300 million, 500, like some crazy amount. So they know what kind of return they're going to get. I mean, really, the first Guardians they didn't put a ton of money into because they were like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, right, and it became huge. So they're.
I think whoever the casting director is for Marvel is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I had doubts, like Chris Pratt, the fat guy from from Parks and Rec. I mean, he was funny. Don't get me wrong, but him in a Marvel movie as Star-Lord, the main character in a Marvel movie, is just Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah. They've done fairly well with casting. There've been no complaints that I've had with a cast member, and even if I did, it's been cleared when they actually go out there and do their thing.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of Quicksilver. I'm glad he died.
well, you won't have to worry about him anymore. So
he ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Watch him come back. I'll be eating my shit.
Hey, comics can always go back in time. There's always weird stuff. No one stays dead in comics, so you never know.
Well, that leaves me to this last question I have for you. What is your least favorite Disney movie of all times? Like one you just cannot stand.
That's tough because the ones that I can't stand, I just kind of drop off.
If you had to pick one, like one.
I'm not a big Snow White fan. It's fine, but it's the classic ones. You know, I mean, they weren't made for me. They're made way before me. Cinderella, they're all fine. I hate Maleficent. I think it's awful. But
I didn't. Besides the live action, I didn't even know that was a.
No, it is just a live action.
Okay.
It's just based off of from Cinderella.
Yeah. And
they try to give her an arc, but she's one of the most evil villains in Disney. So it's like I don't want her good. I want her to be evil. So, and they're making a sequel to that, so I won't.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I won't be looking forward to that. But those are probably my least favorite off the top of my head.
But you'll still go see it.
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will.
If Disney had a credit card for every time you see a Disney movie.
No, they've definitely pumped some money out of me. So.
I would say Bambi. I don't.
Yeah, Bambi's fine. Yeah, no, I'm with you. A lot of the ones I dislike are from
Flubber.
way back in the day.
Flubber.
Flubber was a bit of a downtime.
But love Robin Williams. I know why they because I think they just did Aladdin right after and then they did Flubber a couple years later after Aladdin, and maybe they just wanted to use him. I don't know. That movie was just weird. I don't know.
I mean they had a few missteps with some of their live action movies in probably I believe the 90s. I think they had another bit of a dip when they early 2000s with stuff like Chicken Little.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
I didn't even think about that.
They had that one with the cows. I don't even remember what that one was called. Home on the Range.
Yeah.
They had not Spirit, but it was one just like Spirit. They had a bunch of like fairly kind of, and then they went to straight to DVD sequels. I mean, Pocahontas had like had one or two sequels that no one cared about. Lion King had 2 sequels that no one cared about. Aladdin had 2.
Oh, I didn't even know. I was just.
Yeah, Aladdin has Return of Jafar and Prince of Thieves, so they both are just okay.
I think I remember that game. I used to play that on PlayStation.
Probably played the game, but I mean they're gonna have. I'm sure. Actually, I'm not sure anymore because they haven't had one since then. But I'm sure they're. I mean, like I said, they're gonna have some like Tron. Even though I enjoyed Tron Legacy, that didn't make Tron. A ton of money. I mean, they scratched the sequel to that because it just didn't work out so well. So.
I like Tron. I liked what they did, but then I wish they would continue it. But obviously, it didn't make that much money.
Yeah.
I think cartoon-wise, they definitely fell off, and then Frozen came out and really helped them. If you're just talking about Disney alone, now obviously Pixar was there. They had Finding Nemo. They had Pixar was great. But if you just look at Disney alone, like the singing and everything. I definitely feel like Frozen helped them out. And that was later in the 2000s. That was not that long ago.
Yeah,
maybe like 6 years ago or
I run out so quick of
101 Dalmatians came out in the 90s. We didn't talk about that.
There you go.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. They pretty much they kind of gave up on regular animation to go to the what is it even called? The 3D animation.
Yeah.
Which I'm upset about because I love old animation. I love Princess and the Frog.
I never seen that one.
But that one did not do super well. It kind of, and I think that was kind of why they started to lean towards the 3D. Which, like you said, Frozen obviously knocked out of the park, and there's going to be a sequel, and that's going to crush it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that one day they go back to regular animation, but I believe that was the last one. That was in 2009, so we're coming up on 10 years of the last time it's truly had an animated movie. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's been.
It always seems like maybe it's our age. It always seems like you're, like, oh, that was like a couple years ago, and then you look it up, it's like 95. What?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I think Heavyweights is probably in my top 5 of. That was a good movie for Disney. I was just thinking about that because I saw a fat guy jump in the pool. Weird thing. So I'm moving to Myrtle Beach.
Sure.
And they just opened it up. It's actually on the Broadway at the beach. That their version of the avenue or whatever.
Okay.
Springfield. They have the Quickie Mart, and then they have the theater that's in Springfield. So they said this is the first.
What is that?
What is it? The Aztec.
The Aztec?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the Aztec and the Quickie Mart. The Quickie Mart. I can't say it. Yeah, the Quickie Mart. And it says you can go in, get some of your local favorites, but you can also get souvenirs and stuff. It's the only one that's not in Universal. So it's the first, and why is it in Myrtle Beach? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, why? Because I've been on the fence about living there, and then Kristen's like, oh, look what I found.
Yeah,
she knows I like Simpsons. So I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm like, all right, maybe I can get a job there.
That'd be cool.
But no, the theater's open up. They're doing a 3D ride, the same one that we went on.
Oh, that was great.
And they're doing that one in Myrtle Beach, and then once you get out, you can go right into the Quickie Mart, or you can just walk right into it.
Okay.
Now, if they do like a Flamin' Moe, if they do Moe's,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure if it's popular enough, they'll continue to expand it.
And that's a Fox thing, so hopefully Disney doesn't kill that. But then again, they've had a long run, so.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact. They didn't get the rights to everything. Like I don't think I don't think that. I don't think that type of a Fox is going with it. But I could be wrong. I know it's a weird split of how it's going to work, but I might be wrong, but I don't think that they all are going to. And I believe Universal. There's so many different ways that it gets split up. Same with Marvel. How Marvel and Fox could use Quicksilver, but only one of them can use Silver Surfer, and so it gets split kind of strange. But
That's
I'm
weird.
pretty sure that Simpsons don't come along with it. But who knows? So
What do you want Disney to do next?
oof.
And this is it. Last question of the day. What do you want? What does Devin want?
What does Devin want? It's hard to say that. I would love a reboot of the Darkwing Duck show. I love Darkwing Duck. They had him.
Well, they have DuckTales that just came out.
And he actually popped up on DuckTales, and I was super excited about that. It's hard to say because I'm not the best guy to ask, because I'm not going to judge them too harshly on what they're doing and what they're not doing, because most of the time they do hit it for me. Like you said, I'm not a huge fan of the live action reboots, but whatever. But hey, bring back Three Caballeros, bring back Darkwing Duck, and I'm good. I'm happy.
I think I really want to see the Pocahontas live action. It's crazy because I love Pocahontas. I think it's a great movie, but I'm not like a diehard Pocahontas fan. But just the story would be so good as a live action, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they do well, because they're doing Mulan, but they're straying very far from the actual movie. There's no Mushu. There's